When you do word studies in the translation process, you have to be aware that words have a range of meaning. They don't have just one meaning, but they have a series of meanings. Here's a great example in Matthew 1:19. And so we read, "And Joseph, the man of her," in other words, her husband, "just being," it's kind of odd to have the word that belongs as part of the participial phrase before the participle, but that's okay. "Being just," that's the word we're going to come back to, "and not wishing her to disgrace," and we get to finally to the verb, "he planned secretly to release," which also means to divorce her. So what we have is Joseph decided. There's your basic structure. Joseph, her husband, being righteous and yet not wanting to disgrace her, decided to divorce her quietly. All right, so that's the structure of the sentence. The question I wanted to talk about is dikaios. In my translation, I have Joseph was a just man. What's interesting is the NIV has faithful to the law. NASB has righteous. Let's see what some of the other ones have over here. CSB, righteous. Net Bible, righteous. Notice up here, it goes, Joseph, her husband to be, and they say Greek husband, but it's they're being a little interpretive there, but that's okay. And the NLT, to whom she was engaged. But getting back to dikaios, was Joseph just? Was he righteous? Or was he faithful to the law? It's an interesting question. If you say he's a just man, what does that mean? That in terms of social interactions, he's just towards people, he does the right thing. When we see righteous on this side of the cross, I think we tend to think righteousness, kind of like the idea of being righteous by faith, of being in a right standing with God. Well, the problem with that is Christ hasn't come yet. Could Joseph be righteous in the sense that Paul means righteous? This is one of those situations where you have to be careful that you don't use a word that would miscommunicate to someone who wasn't thinking real clearly. He was righteous in that he was just, but he wasn't righteous in the sense he was justified by faith. NIV comes along and says, well, what's a just person before the time of Christ? What's a righteous person before the time of Christ? Well, it means there's someone who's faithful to the law. So they're bringing out the meaning of it in a way that doesn't miscommunicate. But it's an interesting word because it does mean quite a couple of different things, anywhere from just being a good person to being, in Paul, righteous by faith. And so the NIVs try to find a way to communicate this, but without being anachronistic, looking forward to justification by faith.